our precious children. We live for them, work for them, and struggle to keep them safe, guarding them from the unseen dangers of our world. And yet so many overlook the one simple step that can save their lives. Protect your children. Keep them buckled up.
What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? Was it massive worldwide volcanic eruptions? An asteroid crashing to Earth? A sudden change in climate? Or was it that they just weren't financially prepared for their later years? Make U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program. Ask your banker or employer, U.S. savings bonds, the safe and easy way to make sure you're financially prepared for your later years.
Hi, I'm Kelly Eubanks. I am from Unite Against the War on Women, Arkansas. I am public access, and so are you.
Hi, with us today is Adella Gray. Adella is on the City Council for Ward 1, Position 1. And Fayetteville went through a major election in early November, like most of the rest of the country did, and you're in a runoff.
That's right. I certainly am, with Paul Faneuf.
Now, I guess rarely have the differences between two candidates been clearer than between you and Mr. Faneuf.
I agree completely. I had a runoff 8 years ago. But you're exactly right.
Yeah. So, and one of the things, I guess, the clearest thing about this runoff is Ordinance 119.
That's correct.
And that seems to have galvanized a lot of people. What exactly is Ordinance 119?
Ordinance 119 is an anti-discrimination ordinance so that a person cannot be denied a job or denied access to housing or denied service in a restaurant because of their gender.
Now, I was watching at home the night the big hearing was held at the City Council meeting, and there was a certain reality TV star
yes,
who interjected a note of panic among many people by suggesting that suddenly people were going to have to watch out for their kids in public restrooms because their safety was at risk.
that is, you know, I wish so much that public access had been at the ACLU review of 119 the other night, where they, the law school from the university prepared a panel.
Yeah.
And Eva Madison, who is one of our local attorneys and works for a very large law firm, she represented the business side, but also she said, you know, we're going to talk about bathrooms, because she knew how long it got talked about.
Right.
She said there's absolutely nothing in this ordinance that changes anything about bathrooms.
But it was incessant. In fact, I almost came down that night. To tell you the truth, I almost came down, and I was going to suggest a compromise that the city of Fayetteville just ban all public restrooms and have a porta potty on every other corner. It seemed to be the only reasonable compromise, because I've never seen so much panic in my life among people.
Well, and it was caused by an attorney who was brought in by some folks who were slightly against 119, but she prepared a very thick document about everything that could ever possibly go wrong or be even dreamed up, every myth,
Right.
and put it in that document. And the folks who had hired her just took that as the gospel truth.
Right.
And that is not the truth.
Because that's what people live on anymore, is fear and panic.
I'm afraid you're right. I'm afraid you're right.
One thing I was unclear about. So many of the people who were against it were from out of town, and it's like they were almost. I mean, it's like primarily the people who spoke against it were from out of town, and the people who were for it were from Fayetteville, and the people who were against it were from out of town. I didn't know if they actually came to Fayetteville much anyway, but how many issues do you get where people from out of town line up to speak to an issue?
We've never had another issue like that. And, you know, the mayor is, he's very determined to be open and allow everyone to speak. But I think he has begun to see that that is a bit of a problem, because the first night that we talked about it, there were a lot of people from out of town. And then the second night, on the 19th, he limited and had the in-town people speak first. But, you know, Richard, this is exactly right. I had 400, 500, 600 emails, and many of them were from other states, not just other towns, but other states.
This is how it went last time, too, during the Human Dignity Resolution.
That's right.
You had people from out of town coming up and flooding the city council chambers. Right.
And, you know, I think that it's a serious issue, and I think when folks, there are certain groups who put out the word, and that brings in lots of traffic and lots of folks who are unhappy that this might ever happen.
Of course, along with the people who claim to be unhappy, they bring in money. I mean, so there's a lot of outside money coming in.
That's exactly right.
There's been some, some money from the reality TV star.
Right. That's exactly right. And I think that more and more Fayettevilleans are beginning to realize that that's pretty inappropriate, that we have this Springdale person who's giving all this money, or Tiny Town, wherever.
Right.
But it's all about the issue.
Right.
All about the issue. And but it's very disappointing to have, it's kind of like, Fayetteville cannot be bought.
Yes.
I hope Fayetteville cannot be bought.
Yeah,
we do not want Fayetteville to be bought.
I hope so. It's just a case of educating people, I think.
I think so.
Of
yes.
course, there are other issues besides 119.
Right.
Now, we should emphasize that there's a vote on 119 in December.
Right. December the 9th. That's correct.
Right. And you can start the early vote, I think, a week beforehand, I think?
That's right. December 2nd.
Right. I want to ask you about your runoff. Is it limited to people who voted in the general election?
No, it is not. It is limited to Ward 1 residents, but they do not have to have voted. That was a misconception that got out there.
Okay.
If they're a registered voter in Ward 1, they can vote.
So if they miss the election in November, they still get a chance to take part in this?
That's exactly right, yes.
Okay. But there are other issues. There are other issues coming up. And growth is a huge issue. Growth is, you say huge issue, it's never a small issue. But Fayetteville's been, when I moved to Fayetteville in 1974, there were I think about 25,000 people here.
Right. We moved here in 73, so we've seen it triple in size, essentially. And we've seen the university nearly triple in size. And I think that is one of our biggest challenges. We like our neighborhoods in Fayetteville. We have a culture, a neighborhood culture. And that's probably the thing that I've heard the most about. It's not happening as much in Ward 1 as it is in 2 and 4, but quite a bit. Folks in Ward 1 are still concerned about where they used to drive through neighborhoods. They now see these tall skyscrapers, and they're not happy about that.
No, nobody's happy about that. I remember years ago people were upset because they couldn't see Old Main from Dixon Street. Right. And that seems rather quaint these days.
Yes. It's a huge challenge for us because we feel we do need to help the university any way we can. They are our very biggest employer in the city. And so that's one reason, that's one of the good things that's happened during my 8 years, is that we've established the Town and Gown Advisory
Right.
Committee. It's strictly advisory,
Yeah.
but some good things have come out of that, and I think that the Chancellor and the Mayor have worked closely together, and that's, I think, a real good thing.
Yeah. Now, along with growth come the traffic, come the problems in traffic.
That's right. That's right. And if anyone's driven much around Fayetteville lately, you know that just about every place you go, there is construction.
Yes.
And that is a problem, but we are spending lots of money on taking care of our streets, and I'm happy to respond to my constituents, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is to respond to folks that say, Ms. Gray, I have this terrible pothole that I go through, you know, all the time. But yes, traffic is an issue, but you know, as I travel to other cities, I notice traffic's an issue every place you go.
Everywhere.
It's just that we're not used to it in Fayetteville.
Right.
And we have to kind of plan our route and plan our time. If you're retired like I am, you can do that.
Yeah.
And you just and I try to do that.
Yeah. And of course, you also talked about a complete neighborhood plan for the city.
Yes, yes, we have complete neighborhoods, and we have various neighborhoods. Like Ward 1 has several neighborhoods that we've had charrettes where people came in and told us what they wanted to do, and we value that, because anytime we can have citizen input, we do that. Of course, I feel strongly as a city council person that I try very hard to do what I feel is best for the entire city.
Yeah.
I represent the constituents in Ward 1, but I try to look at that what's going to help the city.
Right. Now, how often do you hear from constituents?
Oh my! That is it's amazing. You know, through now, of course, during the passage of 119.
Yeah.
It was, it was telephone and email and every possible way. Lots and lots of emails and telephone and phone calls. You know, I even would have to have my husband take my phone calls if I had an appointment and needed to get dressed to go someplace.
Yeah.
It was that bad. But I've never bothered to count them, Richard. But I'd say probably 8 or 10 calls a week.
Yeah.
And the thing, sometimes people just want to chit chat, but usually they want something done.
Right.
And so it's that follow up that's so important. And I have a lot of experience in that, and I feel like that's another thing that sets me apart from my opponent, is that I have the experience of dealing with city staff, and I know how to get something done when someone needs something. I know how to what's the quickest, most efficient way for both me and the staff.
There's some other things that set you apart from your opponent as well, aren't there?
Well, yes, I think a lot of things, yes.
I mean, who refers to himself as the Liberty Man.
Well, one thing that concerns me a lot about him is that he's so negative about Fayetteville. And, he's been in town less than a year, maybe a year by now. And for someone to come in from Rhode Island and feel like he knows enough about Fayetteville to become a part of city government, when it's obvious, if you read anything he writes about anything, he hates government and he wants to do away with government and wants to control government. So it's kind of strange to me that he wants to be a part of government when it's all so bad.
See, I read on one of his pages last night, he considers government to be a parasite.
Yeah. Well, in one of our forums, he called it an attack dog. I feel like our government in Fayetteville is, we take care of people in Fayetteville. We keep people safe, and we respond to them, and I don't see it as all bad. So that is the biggest difference between us.
Now, there's another big difference. I guess he seems to, I read somewhere, he seemed to be mocking the city's approach to compassion.
Yeah, yes, I'm not sure where I think that's kind of a new thing. I hadn't heard that much. That's kind of something new he's come up with, but So what have you read about that?
Just a couple paragraphs. I'm not sure he knew where he was going with it.
Oh, okay, okay. He just thought it was something he could.
Seemed to get in the way of personal liberty.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I see. Well, you know, the Fayetteville Compassion is a program that's been going this year, and I think it's a great program. It's not changing a whole lot the way people act. It's just that we're reporting it and know more about what people are doing.
Of course, there are other issues besides 119.
Oh, yes.
And one of the interesting issues, taxi services.
Yeah.
And you got this group Uber, which would like to get a foothold in Fayetteville. Uber, of course, is I'm not going to say they're the victim of bad press, because a lot of the bad press they've gotten is of their own making. But they were certainly like a toehold in Fayetteville. They would like
to. I think when we feel like we need extra services, it'll be easy for us to look at them, and I'll certainly have an open mind. But at this point in time, I think our taxi services are pretty adequate.
I actually read in one city they make all the Uber drivers get bonded.
Well, I would, if they're going to be doing their business in Fayetteville, I think we need to make sure that we have covered our residents if they're going to be a part of their program.
There's just too many negative stories about what's happened to some of the passengers out there.
Right. I have an open mind for them, and when we need them, I'll certainly be glad to look at it.
Yeah. Now, we don't expect snow to knock down our front doors in Fayetteville, but last year was a pretty good winter here.
Right.
And a lot of people were upset last winter because the trash didn't get picked up. The mail, the mail came through every day.
Right.
And the post office came. The post office came, and our newspapers got delivered, but the trash didn't get picked up.
Well, I think you need to look at the vehicles.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit different. The vehicles, I think a mail truck and the newspaper carrier's car, whatever he is in, can go on those roads a lot of times when those monster trash trucks cannot go.
Yeah.
And I think that our trash collection is pretty realistic about what they do. We don't have to worry about it smelling bad if it's frozen.
Do I understand that there's some new snow removal
Yes,
equipment?
we've bought some, and I was just at a meeting where our state highway department was represented, and they've bought considerable new equipment as well, because they got criticized last year.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have some new snow removal equipment, and I serve on the equipment committee, and that's been a fun committee to serve on, and to try to look at helping our equipment to be the most efficient and so forth. So
what are some of the things you're proudest of since you've been on the city council that you've helped to achieve?
Well, I think the purchase of Mount Kessler, over that 300 acres of green space for our community, in addition to the regional park that's going to be close by to that.
Yeah.
Those supporting those and getting movement in those directions. I helped Mr. Frank Sharp put together one of the first meetings when he was trying to figure out how we were going to buy this wonderful Mount Kessler, and that was joy to put that together. But then the best part about it was that there was not one negative word said about the purchase of Mount Kessler. And I probably, Fayetteville's pretty diverse, and usually on any issue, I will have a certain amount of negative as well as positive, but no negative about Mount Kessler. Even though the money was coming out of reserves, there was not one negative word. And the night that we took the final action to buy it, and the chambers were standing room only, it was exciting, because everyone was very excited to be able, because we had the reserves, we had been frugal, and I think that is a very important point. But that also came when we were able to expand Gully Park, which is a very different kind of park for our residents. But that opportunity came along, and we were able to purchase that. So that's exciting.
What's been most frustrating for you?
Oh, I think probably the most frustrating thing, the biggest challenge is in Ward 1 we have terrible drainage problems, and part of that has to do with our wonderful hillsides and the topography. I think that's been frustrating to not be able to deal with that more quickly. We have money set aside every year, but it's minuscule compared to what we need, so that's been frustrating. The second most frustrating thing is how to provide the large buildings, the large, like Frisco, I call them city dorms, how to provide those and not encroach on our neighborhoods. That's been frustrating. I guess I would have to say another thing is just trying to balance the budget. There's so many good things to do, and I try to look at every new and progressive idea that comes down the pike and look at it with an open mind. But I try to look at it to see, is it fitting for Fayetteville, and do we have the money for it? So that's just a good challenge. But I think probably drainage in South Fayetteville and being able to take care of the constituents there who have their yards and flower beds flooded every time we have a big rain. Some of those things have been very frustrating.
Assuming you win the runoff, what would you like to see? What would you really like to see accomplished? A major thing you'd like to see accomplished?
Well, one of the first things I'd like to see is the regional park completed. You know, we have money for the first phase, but I'm contacting some philanthropic groups to try to get. I would love to see that whole park done, and I got to sit on one of the selection committees to choose the planner, the person who drew the plans for that, and that was exciting. We had a good number of folks who sent in proposals who wanted to be considered, so that was fun. That was about a 3-day meeting, and that when you talk about answering constituent calls and attending meetings, these selection committees are overlooked frequently, but sometimes they can take 3 or 4 days if it's a big project like that. So that's probably my number one thing. Of course, I'm always looking to make our streets better and taking care of our maintaining our streets, and we've done. I'm very proud of the flyover. That's something that we had wanted to do for a long time. So that's a big challenge. But I'm excited about just a lot of things that are on the drawing board right now. I want to see the Town and Gown Advisory Committee to work a little more forcefully. Right now, they have passed a resolution to ask the university to help pay for fire services. You know, the university has a great police system, and that helps a lot on our, so far as demand on the Fayetteville police. But I would like, I think that this is something that would be very helpful to the city, because our number of calls have greatly increased as the university has increased. And so anyway, that's something I'd like to see happen. I'm delighted that the Chancellor and the Mayor were able to come together and work on putting that advisory group together. But that's something that I want to see. I'm always interested in our transportation, our public transportation. And you know, we've gotten to that 500,000 mark now in our region, which hopefully will make us eligible for public monies that can help us with our transportation, because I think our transit system is growing and is becoming more used, but I would like to see it. I would like for us to be able to reach out further and to have a complete system that serves the whole region. That would be very exciting.
How do we get more industry in Fayetteville?
Well, we are getting a great number of industry in Fayetteville. We are very selective about the kind of industry, and I think that's what my opponent doesn't realize. It shows that he doesn't really know the Fayetteville culture when he compares us to Springdale. And he does that quite frequently. But the Chamber of Commerce handles our economic development. And we got, as I just came past and noticed, there's lots of work going on the Whole Foods side. Yeah. And the Chamber of Commerce worked very hard to get that. I don't think we would have gotten it if we had not had the professional expertise of the folks at the Chamber to get that, because, Whole Foods gets many calls every week wanting a Whole Foods to come to their town. So I think that was a huge, huge coup, and that will employ over 100 people, as well as bring in lots of sales tax from all over the region.
It'd be nice to find a grocery store where you can just do all your shopping in one store.
Yes.
As it is, you have to go to one store and then go to another for the rest of your stuff.
That's right. That's right. And Whole Foods is more like that. Yes, they are. I've shopped when we go to California to be with our grandchildren out there, and I've shopped out there at the Whole Foods, and it's a delight. It is a little more expensive, but it's you just have to realize that you're getting to do everything in one spot, and that's a great thing for our citizens.
Okay. Well, Adella, well, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you. I'm just delighted to do it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all for watching, and if you live in Ward 1, vote.
Hi, I'm Kelly Eubanks. I am from Unite Against the War on Women, Arkansas. I am public access, and so are you.
Our precious children. We live for them, work for them, and struggle to keep them safe. Guarding them from the unseen dangers of our world. And yet so many overlook the one simple step that can save their lives. Protect your children. Keep them buckled up.
What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? Was it massive worldwide volcanic eruptions? An asteroid crashing to Earth? A sudden change in climate? Or was it that they just weren't financially prepared for their later years? Make U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program. Ask your banker or employer, U.S. savings bonds.
So I was downtown last week, just a small neighborhood dingy bar, and just having a cup of coffee, and there were some members of the Tea Party came in. They were in a jubilant mood, and they sat down and ordered a round of beers, and one of them stood up and yelled, 57 days! And they all started applauding. 57 days! They all downed their beers, and they started just yammering among themselves, and after a couple of minutes, another one stood up and hoisted a cheer and said, 57 days! They all downed their beers again. They just started cheering. So finally, after about 15 minutes of hearing 57 days and slurred applause, I wandered over and said, listen, guys, I'm glad that you're so cheerful, but what's all this 57 days business about? And the members of the Tea Party, who I have come to respect because they are taking our country back, said, we're not all just about fighting for the Constitution and bashing Obama. We bought ourselves a jigsaw puzzle last week. On the front it said 3 to 5 years, but we did it in 57 days.
Some of the best songs are the songs that are stories that are based on true stories. A true story by far seem to be more fabulous than anything we seem to be able to make up. And this is one of those stories. Grab a chair and rest your feet. I've a little tale to tell. A full of trauma, full of danger. Listen hard and listen well. It's a story of a bank robber, smart and quick. Her name's unknown, crime remains an unsolved mystery. She wore a see-through blouse, it was no big disguise, but the teller that she robbed couldn't quite believe his eyes. She wore a sheer and see-through blouse, trimmed with fancy lace, but poor bank teller never once glanced upon her face. She boldly strode into the bank, the day was bright and sunny. With gun in hand, made the demand, give me all your money. The teller was afraid, he was quick with her request. After all, it's rather frightening being held by a press. She wore see-through glass, it was no big disguise, but the teller that she robbed couldn't quite believe his eyes. She wore a sheer and see-through blouse, trimmed with fancy lace, that poor bank teller never once glanced upon her face. He made quick work to fill her bags with money from his drawer, and with no one else the wiser, she walked right out that door. Then he sounded the alarms, and the cops came right away, asking for a full description, but all that he could say was, "Whoa, sure, see-through blouse." It was no big disguise, but the teller that she robbed couldn't quite believe his eyes. She wore a sheer and see-through blouse, trimmed with fancy lace, that poor bank teller never once glanced upon her face. Now that wealthy lady bank robber is roaming free today. She understood the system well and how to make it pay. So let this be a warning to all who are obsessed. Better turn around to thinking and get it off your chest. She wore see-through blouse, it was no big disguise, but the teller that she robbed couldn't quite believe his eyes. She wore a sheer and see-through blouse, trimmed with fancy lace, that poor bank teller never once glanced upon her face.
Fun, happy time talking about nothing.
Oh, Lord, please just give me one more burst of strength.
Good evening. I am Dracula. Nah, I'm not really Dracula, I just washed my hair. But I'm still going to suck your blood.
Sanctuary! 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 Sanctuary!
Virtual sex. Like Eve, I began by pulling down an apple. I don't know about hers, but mine was a Macintosh. It gave me a menu. I said, find. It prompted, find what? A good man, I typed. It hesitated. I realized this had to be a global search. The first find was a bomb, embarrassingly immature software, and an early version at that, riddled with unspeakable viruses. Clearly a system error matched me with this unit. Option 2 was more my type, creative and energetic, pumped full of RAM. But a bug in his childhood story file activated when our chips got hot. He shut down and self-ejected simultaneously. Option 3 was a whole new file. His communication was word perfect. In bed he did excel, and so creative with a free hand. I knew at last I'd found compatible software. I could tell him my truths. No data was too base. And when he spread my sheets, his floppy got hard. He manipulated my layout and my cells went wild. Honey, this gal's format will never be the same. The story has a happy ending, of course. We merged files, began replicating, and never had to leave virtual reality again.
January 15th, 1864, Camp Lemire, Louisville, Arkansas. Beloved wife, I will write you a few lines and risk the chance of it getting to you, though the chance is very dim, yet I am willing to risk all chance. I am well at present, and I hope these few lines will find you all well at home. It has been a long time since I wrote to you. I received 2 letters from you since I have been at this camp. I received the clothing you sent to me, all of it. I feel under many obligations to you, and I expect to reward you for it if we are ever permitted to live together again, and I do hope and pray that we will. I never have felt like that I would be killed. I have always thought that I would get home if I would do as I should and act right. I try to do as ever right as I can. I am sorry to hear that our country is treated as it is. I did not think that any white man could be so mean as some of the feds are. I heard that the feds killed your father and a great many others. I was in hopes that Mr. Hamblin would come out and not risk his life with the feds so far. I expected to see him come out, and I wish that he had, for I wanted to see him. I feel very sorry to hear that father is blind. I hope that he will recover his sight yet. I have many troubles to grieve over and trials to bear. Many tears fall from my eyes when I think of home and loved ones that I have left behind that is near and dear to me, and I have to bear the troubles that the feds put on you. I heard that the feds had ordered all of the southern women out of that country and said if they do not leave, that they would burn you all up and make you leave one way or the other. I hope that you will never go north. I wish that you was all out of there, and if I could help you any way, I would do it if I could. And if I could not get the chance or leave, I would go anyhow. But I know that I cannot do you any good while the feds are so thick around you. You say that you would not have me be there for anything, dodging from the feds, and I am satisfied that it would make them worse on you, for I believe that bushwhacking has been the main cause of all the killing and burning that has been done. Some women have come out from Washington County, and they say that hundreds of families are on the way coming out. I would be glad to hear that you had got out safe, and if you have not started, I want you to come as soon as you can. I want you to live on Confederate dirt as long as there is 1 mile of it. I am afraid that a great many of the boys will be killed if they do not return to their commands. General Magruder has ordered every man to his command that ever belonged to any, and no man is allowed to cross the federal lines. And he said if they do not come back, that they will be attended to and punished severely. And many of the bushwhackers are deserters from the army, and he said that they must return to their commands. And I hope they will. Tell father and mother I send my love to them, and I want to see them very bad. My tongue cannot speak my feeling.
Politics in general and jobs that don't pay enough, 40-hour work weeks, books full of boring stuff, schools that should teach but kids don't learn a thing. These are a few of my least favorite things. Healthcare that won't heal and how people treat the earth, paying tolls and taxes, disbelief in self-worth, bitter cold winters that cut into spring. These are a few of my least favorite things. Religions that claim they're true, don't get me started. Standards that double and people cold-hearted. Judgment and bias when freedom don't ring. These are a few of my least favorite things. All the lying, all the killing. When I'm depressed and sad, I add that to all of my least favorite things, and then I feel really bad. Feel like Julie Andrews or something.
So I was downtown last week, just a small neighborhood dingy bar, and just having a cup of coffee, and there were some members of the Tea Party came in. They were in a jubilant mood, and they sat down and ordered a round of beers, and one of them stood up and yelled, 57 days! And they all started applauding, 57 days! They all downed their beers, and they started just yammering among themselves, and after a couple of minutes, another one stood up and hoisted a cheer and said, 57 days! They all downed their beers again. They started cheering. So finally, after about 15 minutes of hearing 57 days and slurred applause, I wandered over and said, listen, guys, I'm glad that you're so cheerful, but what's all this 57 days business about? And the members of the Tea Party, who I have come to respect because they are taking our country back, said, we're not all just about fighting for the Constitution and bashing Obama. We bought ourselves a jigsaw puzzle last week. On the front it said 3 to 5 years, but we did it in 57 days.
Fun, happy time talking about nothing.
Oh, Lord, please just give me one more burst of strength.
Good evening. I am Dracula. Nah, I'm not really Dracula, I just washed my hair. But I'm still going to suck your blood.
Sanctuary! 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 Sanctuary!
Hi, I'm Kelly Eubanks. I am from Unite Against the War on Women, Arkansas. I am public access, and so are you.
Our precious children. We live for them, work for them, and struggle to keep them safe. Guarding them from the unseen dangers of our world. And yet so many overlook the one simple step that can save their lives. Protect your children. Keep them buckled up.
What really caused the dinosaurs to become extinct? Was it massive worldwide volcanic eruptions? An asteroid crashing to Earth? A sudden change in climate? Or was it that they just weren't financially prepared for their later years? Make U.S. savings bonds part of your retirement savings program. Ask your banker or employer, U.S. savings bonds.